The next morning, Ethan and Claire were summoned once again to the main chamber of the Citadel. This time, however, the atmosphere was markedly different. The council members entered with purposeful strides, their expressions ranging from curiosity to thinly veiled hostility. It was clear that the revelation of the Mark III had shifted the dynamics of power within the room, and humanity's place in the galaxy was now under intense scrutiny. As they took their seats, Ethan could feel the weight of countless eyes on him. Some envoys whispered behind raised hands while others openly stared, their gazes oscillating between awe and suspicion. Even Vela, who had initially seemed supportive, appeared more cautious than before. Her fins shimmered faintly as she exchanged quiet words with Reinach, whose mandibles clicked impatiently. When the session began, Ambassador Reinach wasted no time addressing the elephant in the room. Rising to his full height, he addressed the assembled council. "The demonstration by Ambassador Caldwell has raised serious concerns," he declared, his voice carrying an edge of accusation. "This so-called Mark III armor represents a significant escalation, one that could destabilize the delicate balance we have worked centuries to maintain." A murmur rippled through the chamber, some voices agreeing with Reinach, others dissenting. Ethan clenched his fists beneath the table, forcing himself to remain calm. He knew this moment would come. Revealing the armor had been a gamble, and now, the stakes were higher than ever. Before Reinach could continue, Vela interjected smoothly. "While Ambassador Reinach raises valid points, let us not forget that innovation is not inherently dangerous. Humanity's development of advanced technology does not necessarily mean they intend harm. Instead of reacting with fear, perhaps we should focus on understanding their intentions and capabilities." Her words earned nods of approval from several council members, but Reinach wasn't swayed. "Understanding requires transparency," he shot back, "and transparency demands proof. Ambassador Caldwell claims the Mark III is a tool for defense, but how can we verify such claims? Words are meaningless without evidence." Ethan leaned forward slightly, sensing an opening. "If proof is what you seek, then I am prepared to provide it," he said, his voice steady despite the tension coursing through him. "But understand this. Demonstrating the armor's full potential carries risks. Its systems are designed for combat scenarios, not controlled environments." Reinach's antennae twitched, a sign of irritation. "Are you suggesting you cannot comply?" "No," Ethan replied firmly. "I'm suggesting that if you want a demonstration, you must accept the consequences. The Mark III is not just a suit, it's a statement, and statements, by their very nature, provoke reactions." The room fell silent, the council members exchanging uneasy glances. Even Reinach hesitated, clearly unprepared for Ethan's boldness. Finally, Vela spoke up again, her tone measured but firm. "Very well. A demonstration shall be arranged, but under strict supervision. If the Mark III truly serves as a means of defense, then proving its utility will benefit everyone." Ethan nodded, masking his relief. He had expected resistance, even outright refusal, but Vela's intervention had given him a chance to showcase the armor's abilities without inciting panic. Still, he knew this was only the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead. Later that day, preparations began for the demonstration. A secure testing ground deep within the Citadel was selected, a vast arena equipped with holographic projectors, simulated terrains, and advanced monitoring systems. Council members gathered along the observation deck, their curiosity evident as technicians calibrated the equipment below. Ethan stood at the center of the arena, the Mark III concealed beneath his civilian clothes, while Claire remained nearby, ready to assist if needed. As the crowd settled into their seats, Reinach approached Ethan, his towering frame casting a long shadow. "Do not mistake this opportunity for acceptance," he warned, his voice low and menacing. "Failure here will confirm everything I've said about your species." Ethan met his gaze evenly, refusing to back down. "Then I suggest you watch closely, Ambassador. You might learn something." With that, Reinach turned and rejoined the others, leaving Ethan alone in the spotlight. Moments later, the lights dimmed, and a holographic display flickered to life. Above the arena, showing vital statistics and live feeds from multiple angles. A disembodied voice announced the start of the demonstration, and Ethan activated the Mark III. The transformation was instantaneous, the sleek armor materializing around him in a flash of blue energy. Gasps echoed throughout the chamber as the council members watched the suit take shape, its surface shimmering like liquid metal. Once fully deployed, Ethan raised his arms, allowing the audience to see every detail: the reinforced plating, the glowing energy cores embedded in the chest and back, the streamlined design that exuded both power and precision. "Begin simulation," the voice instructed, and the arena came alive. Holographic enemies appeared around Ethan, their forms shifting between humanoid figures and monstrous creatures. Plasma bolts streaked through the air, targeting him from all directions. To the untrained eye, it seemed impossible to evade such an onslaught. But Ethan moved with unnatural speed and agility, thanks to the armor's enhanced mobility systems. He dodged one attack after another, his movements fluid and precise. When a bolt of plasma struck his chest, the energy shield flared to life, deflecting the blow effortlessly. Cheers erupted from some sections of the observation deck, though others remained silent, their skepticism still intact. But Ethan wasn't done yet. Activating the armor's weapon systems, he unleashed bursts of plasma fire, each shot striking its target with pinpoint accuracy. The holographic enemies dissolved into pixels replaced by new waves of adversaries. Despite the chaos, Ethan remained calm, relying on the AI's predictive algorithms to anticipate threats before they emerged. The final phase of the demonstration involved physical endurance. Giant robotic constructs descended into the arena, their metallic limbs swinging wildly as they charged toward Ethan. Rather than retreating, he engaged them head-on, using the armor's strength enhancements to overpower his opponents. With a single punch, he sent one construct crashing into the wall, its frame crumpling like paper. Another lunged at him, but Ethan sidestepped gracefully, delivering a devastating kick that shattered its torso. By the time the simulation ended, the arena was littered with debris and Ethan stood victorious, his chest rising and falling as the armor's cooling systems hummed softly. Above him, the holographic displays blinked off, plunging the room into silence. For several heartbeats, no one spoke, until applause broke out, hesitant at first, then growing louder as more council members joined in. Even Reinach couldn't hide his astonishment. His mandibles clicked rapidly, betraying his inner turmoil. Vela, on the other hand, wore a satisfied smile, her fins rippling gently. "Impressive," she said aloud, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Truly impressive." Ethan powered down the armor, returning it to its concealed state before addressing the council. "This is not a weapon of conquest," he stated, firmly, his amplified voice resonating through the room. "It is a tool for survival, a testament to humanity's determination to protect itself and contribute to galactic peace. We aren't asking for permission to exist. We're proving that we belong." His words hung in the air, met with a mix of admiration, apprehension, and grudging respect. As the council members filed out of the observation deck, their discussions buzzed with speculation about what this meant for humanity's future. Some saw potential allies, others saw rivals, but none could deny that Earth had just made an unforgettable impression. Back in their quarters, Ethan and Claire allowed themselves a brief moment of celebration. "That went better than I expected," Claire admitted, sinking onto the couch with a sigh of relief. "They actually clapped for you." "They're impressed, sure," Ethan replied, pacing slowly as he processed the events of the day. "But don't mistake applause for trust. They'll still be watching us closely, waiting for any misstep." Claire nodded, her expression sobering. "True, but at least now they know we're not pushovers. That counts for something." "It does," Ethan agreed, stopping mid-step to look at her. "And it gives us a chance to build on this momentum. Starting tomorrow, we need to start laying groundwork, forming alliances, sharing knowledge, and making it clear that humanity isn't just here to survive. We're here to thrive." As night fell over the citadel, the two of them continued planning their next moves, aware that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. But for the first time in a long while, there was hope. A fragile, flickering flame that refused to be extinguished. Whatever came next, humanity was ready to face it head-on. The revelation of the Mark III armor sent shockwaves through the citadel. News of Ethan's demonstration spread faster than anyone could have anticipated, carried by whispers in the hallways and urgent transmissions between council members. Within minutes, the once quiet corridors were alive with activity as envoys rushed to share what they'd heard, or in some cases seen firsthand. The sight of a human wearing advanced battle armor, capable of disabling weapons with ease, had left many stunned and uneasy. Ethan and Claire stood silently in the conference room, waiting for Rhinox's reaction. The insectoid ambassador stared at Ethan, his sharp eyes narrowing as he processed what had just happened. For a moment it seemed like he might lash out, but instead, he leaned back in his chair, clicking his mandibles thoughtfully. "Impressive," he finally said, though his tone was anything but complimentary. "But also reckless. Do you truly believe flaunting such power will earn you trust?" Ethan met his gaze without flinching. "It's not about earning trust, it's about proving we're not helpless. Humanity isn't here to beg for scraps or bow to intimidation. We're here because we belong." Rhinox's antennae twitched slightly, a sign of irritation. "Belonging is earned, not declared. Your species has barely begun its journey among the stars, yet you act as if you are equals." "And why shouldn't we?" Claire interjected, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "Every species starts somewhere. You didn't build your empires overnight, and neither did we. What makes humanity any different?" Before Rhinox could respond, the door to the conference room slid open, and several other council members entered. Among them was Vela, the aquatic diplomat who had earlier expressed cautious optimism about humanity. Her translucent fins rippled gently as she moved, catching the light in mesmerizing patterns. Behind her trailed representatives from various factions, their expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. "What is the meaning of this disturbance?" One of them, a hulking quadrupedal creature with plated armor and glowing eyes, demanded gruffly. His deep voice rumbled like distant thunder. "We were told there was an incident involving Ambassador Caldwell." Vela stepped forward, her calm demeanor contrasting sharply with the growing tension in the room. "Indeed," she said, addressing Ethan directly. "Care to explain what transpired here?" Ethan glanced at Claire briefly before speaking. "I was accused of trespassing in a restricted area and brought here under suspicion of espionage. When confronted, I chose to reveal the truth rather than remain silent. This armor, the Mark III, is a product of human ingenuity, designed to protect us and ensure our survival. It's not a weapon of aggression, but a tool for defense." The council members exchanged glances, their reactions varied. Some looked intrigued, others skeptical, and a few openly hostile. One envoy, a slender bird-like being with iridescent feathers, spoke up, her melodic voice carrying a note of concern. Such technology could destabilize the balance of power in the galaxy. If humans possess this capability, how can we be certain they won't use it irresponsibly? That's exactly why we kept it hidden until now, Ethan replied, choosing his words carefully. We knew revealing it would cause unrest, which is why we wanted to wait for the right moment. But when accusations fly and threats loom, silence becomes dangerous. We aren't asking for permission to exist, we're showing that we can stand on our own. His statement drew murmurs of approval from some corners of the room, but Rhinox remained unmoved. Standing on your own is one thing, he said coldly, but wielding unchecked power is another. How do we know this Mark III won't be used to seize resources or expand Earth's influence? Claire stepped forward, her expression firm. Because humanity values cooperation over conquest. Yes, we've made mistakes in the past, but so has every species in this room. The difference is that we're willing to learn and to prove ourselves. If you want guarantees, then work with us. Let us show you that we're ready to contribute, not dominate. The room fell silent as the council members considered her words. Even Rhinox seemed momentarily taken aback by her boldness. After a Long pause, Vela spoke again, her voice soothing yet authoritative. Perhaps this is an opportunity, she suggested. Rather than reacting out of fear, we should seek understanding. Humanity's emergence into the galactic community is inevitable. Instead of resisting it, we should guide it. Her suggestion sparked a heated debate among the council members. Some agreed with her, arguing that suppressing human innovation would only breed resentment. Others sided with Reinach, insisting that caution was necessary to prevent potential conflicts. As the discussion grew louder, Ethan felt a strange mix of relief and unease. On one hand, the council was talking about humanity's role in earnest, a sign that they took his demonstration seriously. On the other hand, the outcome remained uncertain. When the arguing finally subsided, Vela turned to Ethan and Claire. For now, we will table further decisions regarding the Mark III. However, you must understand that this revelation changes everything. Expect scrutiny, not just from us, but from all corners of the galaxy. We expected nothing less, Ethan replied, meeting her gaze evenly, and were prepared to face it. With that, the council members filed out of the room, leaving Ethan and Claire alone once more. As the door slid shut behind them, Claire let out a shaky breath. Well, she said, sinking into a nearby chair. That went better than I thought. It would. Ethan shook his head, pacing slowly across the room. Better? Maybe. But this is far from over. Revealing the armor was risky, but hiding it wasn't an option anymore. Now everyone knows we have something valuable. And that makes us a target. Claire nodded grimly. You're right. There's no going back now. Every species out there will be watching us closely, trying to figure out whether we're allies, or enemies, or both. Ethan added darkly. He stopped pacing and looked at her, his expression troubled. What worries me most isn't the council. It's what happens next. Someone's bound to test us to see how far we'll go to defend ourselves. And when that happens, we'll need more than just the Mark III. Claire stood up, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Then we prepare. We've come this far, Ethan. We can't afford to falter now. As they left the conference room and returned to the main chamber, the atmosphere felt different. Envoys who had previously ignored them now watched with renewed interest, some whispering among themselves as Ethan passed by. Word of the Mark III had clearly reached even the lowest levels of the Citadel, and its presence loomed large over every interaction. Later that evening, Ethan and Claire retreated to their quarters, exhausted, but unable to relax. The day's events replayed in their minds, each moment analyzed and dissected for clues about what might come next. Outside their window, the vast expanse of space stretched endlessly, dotted with distant stars and swirling nebulae. It was a reminder of just how small humanity was in the grand scheme of things and how much was at stake. I keep thinking about what Vela said, Claire murmured, breaking the silence. About guiding us instead of resisting us. Do you think they'll actually try to help, or is it just talk? Ethan shrugged, staring out at the stars. Hard to say. Some of them might genuinely want to work with us, but others... He trailed off, shaking his head. Others will see us as either a threat or an opportunity. Either way, we can't rely on anyone but ourselves. Claire sighed, leaning back against the wall. So what's the plan? Keep developing the armor? Start building alliances? All of the above, Ethan replied firmly. We need to strengthen the Mark III, make sure it's ready for whatever comes next. At the same time, we need to start reaching out. To other species. To Earth. To anyone who might support us. Humanity can't survive alone, no matter how advanced our tech is. They spent the rest of the night discussing strategies, brainstorming ways to navigate the challenges ahead. By the time dawn broke, they had a rough outline of their next steps. But even as they finalized their plans, a nagging question lingered in the back of Ethan's mind. Had they done enough to prepare for the storm that was surely coming? Outside, the Citadel hummed with life, oblivious to the turmoil brewing within its walls. For now, the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what humanity would do next, and whether it would rise to meet the challenges of its newfound place among the stars. The meeting in the main chamber of the Citadel stretched on, each passing minute feeling heavier than the last. Ethan sat stiffly in his seat, trying to maintain an outward appearance of calm, while his mind raced with possibilities. The council. Members continued their discussions, but it was clear that Ambassador Reinach's accusations had set the tone for the session. Humanity was under scrutiny, and every word spoken seemed to carry a hidden judgment. Claire sat beside him, her posture relaxed, but her eyes sharp. She watched the council members closely, analyzing their expressions and reactions. Some seemed genuinely curious about humanity's contributions to galactic affairs, while others appeared openly hostile. Reinach, however, remained the most intimidating presence in the room. His towering insectoid frame loomed over the proceedings, his clicking mandibles and piercing gaze making it clear that he viewed humans as little more than pests. As the discussion turned toward Earth's role in maintaining galactic security, Ethan leaned forward slightly. This was the part he'd been dreading, the moment when humanity's lack of resources and influence would be laid bare for everyone to see. One council member, a soft-spoken aquatic being named Vela, addressed the group. "Earth has shown promise," she said, her voice flowing like water. "But without tangible evidence of its capabilities, how can we trust it to uphold peace?" Her question hung in the air, unanswered for a moment. Ethan glanced at Claire, who gave him an almost imperceptible nod. It was time to speak up. Taking a deep breath, Ethan stood slowly, drawing the attention of the entire chamber. "Humans may not have centuries of experience navigating the stars," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of so many eyes on him. "But we are resourceful, determined, and willing to work alongside others to ensure stability." Reinach scoffed audibly, earning murmurs of agreement from some of the other council members. "Words mean nothing without action," he snapped. "Show us something real, something that proves your species is worth considering as equals." Ethan clenched his jaw, resisting the urge to retaliate. Instead, he forced himself to smile politely. "Perhaps this meeting is an opportunity to demonstrate exactly that," he replied, choosing his words carefully. "Humanity values cooperation above all else. We are here to listen, learn, and contribute, not to disrupt or dominate." His response earned mixed reactions. Some council members nodded approvingly, while others exchanged skeptical glances. Reinach remained unmoved, his cold stare fixed on Ethan as if daring him to make a mistake. Claire squeezed Ethan's arm lightly under the table, silently urging him to tread carefully. When the session adjourned for a recess, Ethan felt both relieved and uneasy. He hadn't revealed anything about the Mark III, but the pressure to prove humanity's worth was mounting. As they left the chamber, Claire pulled him aside into a quieter corridor. "That could have gone worse," she said, though her tone suggested she wasn't entirely convinced. "It's not over yet," Ethan muttered, rubbing his temples. "Reinach isn't going to let this drop. He's looking for any excuse to push us out or worse." Claire frowned, glancing around to ensure no one was eavesdropping. "What do you think he wants? Does he really believe we're hiding advanced tech, or is he just fishing for weaknesses?" "Both," Ethan replied grimly. "If he thinks we have something valuable, he'll try to take it. And if he doesn't find anything, he'll use our silence against us anyway." They walked in silence for a few moments, each lost in thought. The Citadel was a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, bustling with activity. Alien diplomats hurried past them, speaking in languages Ethan couldn't understand. Strange scents filled the air, some metallic, others floral, and the hum of machinery echoed faintly through the walls. Despite its grandeur, the place felt oppressive, like a gilded cage designed to keep outsiders in line. As they rounded a corner, Ethan suddenly stopped. Ahead of them, a group of alien envoys stood clustered near a doorway marked with warning symbols. They were speaking in hushed tones, their body language tense. Something about the scene made Ethan uneasy. "Let's go the other way," he whispered to Claire, turning back the way they came. Before they could move, one of the envoys noticed them. A reptilian creature with gleaming scales stepped forward, blocking their path. You shouldn't be here, it hissed, its forked tongue flicking as it studied them. Its companions turned to face Ethan and Claire, their expressions unreadable. We're just following the guide routes, Claire said quickly, raising her hands in a gesture of innocence. We didn't realize this area was restricted. The reptilian envoy narrowed its slitted eyes. Restricted areas are off limits to all unauthorized personnel. You will come with us. Ethan's heart sank. This was exactly the kind of situation he'd hoped to avoid. If they were detained, or worse, searched, it could expose the Mark III before he was ready. Thinking fast, he activated the armor's systems discreetly, feeling the familiar hum of energy beneath his clothes. There must be a misunderstanding, he said evenly. We're guests of the council. Surely there's no need for alarm. The envoy hesitated, glancing at its companions. For a moment it seemed like they might let it slide, but then another voice cut through the tension. Ambassador Caldwell. Reinach's sharp tones rang out as he approached from behind. I should have guessed I'd find you skulking around where you don't belong. Ethan turned to face him, his expression neutral but his muscles coiled like springs. Ambassador Reinach, he said coolly. I assure you we weren't aware this area was restricted. We were simply exploring. Exploring? Reinach repeated, his mandibles clicking angrily. Or spying. Humans have much to gain by learning our secrets, and much to lose if caught. Claire stepped forward, her voice firm. With all due respect, Ambassador, accusing us of espionage is unfounded. If you have concerns, perhaps we should discuss them openly rather than resorting to baseless accusations. Reinach sneered, clearly unimpressed. Very well, let us see what you have to say, in private. He gestured sharply, and two guards flanked Ethan and Claire, ushering them away from the crowd. As they moved, Ethan could feel the weight of the Mark III pressing against his skin, its systems primed and ready. One wrong move, and everything could spiral out of control. They were led to a small conference room tucked away in a quieter section of the Citadel. Inside, Reinach took a seat, at the head of the table, his sharp gaze never leaving them. Now, he said, leaning forward slightly. Explain yourselves. Ethan exchanged a glance with Claire, who nodded subtly. It was now or never. Slowly, Ethan reached for the activation switch hidden beneath his jacket. In an instant, the Kai, Mark III, materialized around him, its sleek surface shimmering with blue energy. The transformation was seamless, the armor fitting perfectly over his body as if it had always been there. For a brief moment, everyone in the room froze. Even Reinach's usual composure faltered as he stared at the armored figure standing before him. The guards raised their weapons instinctively, but Ethan was faster. With a single gesture, he triggered the armor's EMP field, disabling their equipment in a flash of light. The room fell silent, save for the faint hum of the armor's systems. What is this? Reinach demanded, his voice tinged with disbelief and anger. This, Ethan said, his amplified voice resonating through the chamber, is humanity's answer to survival. The Mark III battle armor, a symbol of our ingenuity, determination, and resolve. We aren't here to threaten anyone, but we won't stand idly by while others decide our fate. Reinach's mandibles clicked furiously, but he said nothing. Around them, whispers spread like wildfire as news of the demonstration reached the ears of other council members. Within minutes, the entire Citadel seemed to buzz with excitement and fear. Claire watched the scene unfold with a mixture of pride and apprehension. They had crossed a line, and there was no turning back. Whatever happened next would define humanity's place in the galaxy, for better or worse. As Ethan powered down the armor and returned it to its concealed state, he knew one thing for certain: the game had changed. The next morning, Ethan woke up groggier than usual. His mind was still heavy with the doubts that had crept in the night before, but there wasn't much time to dwell on them. As he sat down at the small desk in his quarters, a flashing light on his communication console caught his attention. It was a priority message from the Galactic Council, an urgent summons. The Council rarely contacted humans directly, So this could only mean one thing. Something big was happening. Ethan's stomach tightened as he opened the transmission. A formal voice crackled through the speakers, delivering the message in clipped tones. Ambassador Ethan Caldwell, you are hereby summoned to appear before the Galactic Council within 48 standard hours. Your presence is required aboard the Citadel for discussions regarding humanity's role in galactic security. Failure to comply will result in immediate sanctions. Sanctions. That word alone sent a chill down Ethan's spine. Sanctions could mean anything from trade restrictions to outright isolation, and isolation was the last thing humanity needed right now. They were still finding their footing among the stars, and being cut off would set them back decades, maybe, even centuries. Whatever the council wanted, it couldn't be ignored. Claire found him moments later, pacing anxiously in the lab. She took one look at his face and knew something was wrong. What happened? She asked, her voice calm but edged with concern. They want me at the Citadel, Ethan said, holding up the message log. They didn't say why, but it's clear they're not happy about something. Claire frowned, scanning the text quickly. This doesn't sound like a routine check-in. Do you think they know about the Mark III? I don't see how they could, Ethan replied, though his tone betrayed uncertainty. We've been careful, but if they do suspect something... He trailed off, the implications sinking in. Claire crossed her arms, thinking hard. Even if they don't know yet, we can't assume they won't find out. If they start digging, it's only a matter of time before someone talks or slips up. Ethan nodded grimly. She was right. Secrecy had worked so far, but the armor was too big a secret to stay hidden forever. The council wasn't known for its patience, especially when it came to potential threats. For all they knew, this summons could be a trap, a way to corner him into revealing what he'd been working on. So what do we do? Claire pressed. Do we go, or do we stall? We go, Ethan said firmly. If we refuse, it'll look suspicious. Besides, I need to see what they're after. Maybe it's not even about the armor. And if it is? Claire countered. Her eyes locked onto his, searching for answers he didn't have. You can't walk into that meeting unprepared, Ethan. Not with everything riding on this. He hesitated, then let out a slow breath. Then I won't go unprepared. It didn't take long for Claire to piece together what he meant. You're thinking of wearing the Mark III under your clothes? It's risky, but it might be our only option, Ethan admitted. If things get ugly, I'll need a way to protect myself and maybe send a message while I'm at it. Claire stared at him, torn between admiration and exasperation. You realize how dangerous that is, right? If anyone finds out... I know, Ethan interrupted, but we don't have a choice. If they try to push us around, I need to show them we're not defenseless. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of the decision hung heavily in the air. Finally, Claire sighed and nodded. All right, but we play this smart. No unnecessary risks. Agreed, Ethan said, though his mind was already racing ahead to the logistics. Activating the armor in public would draw attention, but hiding it entirely wasn't an option either. They'd have to strike a balance. Enough secrecy to keep it safe, but enough readiness to deploy it if needed. Over the next 2 days, Ethan and Claire prepared meticulously for the trip. They packed lightly, bringing only essentials to avoid suspicion. Ethan double-checked every system in the Mark III, ensuring it was fully functional and ready for activation at a moment's notice. Meanwhile, Claire handled communications, sending coded updates to trusted contacts back on Earth. If something went wrong, humanity would need allies, and fast. When the time came to leave, they boarded a small spacecraft docked at the facility. The ship wasn't flashy or particularly advanced, but it was reliable, a perfect match for their low-profile approach. As they settled into their seats, Ethan glanced at Claire. Ready? As ready as I'll ever be, she replied, forcing a smile. Deep down, though, she felt a gnawing sense of unease. This mission was unlike anything they'd faced before, and failure wasn't an option. The journey to the Citadel took several hours, during which neither of them spoke much. Ethan spent most of the time reviewing contingency plans in his head, while Claire monitored the ship's systems and kept an eye on incoming transmissions. Occasionally, she caught glimpses of other vessels passing by, some sleek and polished, others battered and utilitarian. Each one served as a reminder of just how vast and complex the galaxy truly was. When they finally arrived, the sight of the Citadel left both of them speechless. It was massive, easily dwarfing any structure Ethan had ever seen. Floating silently in the void of space, its surface gleamed with metallic panels interspersed with glowing windows and docking ports. Towers jutted upward at odd angles, giving it an almost organic appearance, as if it had grown rather than been built. Ships of all shapes and sizes orbited it like moths drawn to a flame, each one carrying representatives from across the galaxy. As their craft approached, Ethan felt a strange mix of awe and apprehension. This was where decisions affecting billions of lives were made, where power shifted and alliances formed. And now, for better or worse, he was stepping into that world. Once they landed, they disembarked and followed a guide assigned to escort them to the main chamber. Walking through the halls of the Citadel felt surreal. Every surface shimmered faintly, reflecting the soft glow of overhead lights. Alien species of every imaginable form bustled about, some towering over humans, others no taller than children. Strange languages filled the air, punctuated by bursts of laughter or heated arguments. Despite the diversity, one thing was clear. Humanity was an outsider here. Ethan and Claire exchanged nervous glances as they moved deeper into the complex. More than once they felt the weight of curious stares. Some aliens looked intrigued, others dismissive, and a few downright hostile. It was clear that humans weren't exactly welcome guests. Their guide led them to a waiting area outside the main chamber, where ambassadors and envoys gathered before meetings. Ethan recognized a few faces from reports he'd read. Species, known for their military prowess, others for their diplomatic cunning. Among them stood Ambassador Rhynoc, a towering insectoid figure whose chitinous exoskeleton gleamed menacingly under the lights. His sharp mandibles clicked rhythmically as he spoke to another envoy, his posture radiating authority and disdain. Ethan instinctively straightened his shoulders, trying to project confidence despite the knot forming in his stomach. Claire leaned closer, whispering, "That's him, the one who's been pushing hardest against us. Be careful." Ethan nodded slightly, keeping his expression neutral. He didn't trust himself to respond without letting his frustration show. Instead, he focused on staying alert, scanning the room for potential threats or opportunities. Minutes passed like hours as they waited for the meeting to begin. When the doors finally opened, Ethan and Claire followed the crowd inside. The main chamber was even more impressive than the rest of the Citadel, with high ceilings and walls lined with holographic displays, showing data streams and live feeds from across the galaxy. At the center stood a circular platform surrounded by tiered seating, where the council members presided over proceedings. As Ethan took his seat, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, not just by the council, but by everyone in the room. Humanity's fate rested on his shoulders now, and the pressure was almost suffocating. Still, he reminded himself why he was here. This wasn't just about survival. It was about proving that humanity belonged among the stars. The meeting began with formalities, each council member introducing themselves and outlining the agenda. Then came the accusations. Ambassador Rhynoc rose to his feet, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Humans have shown little regard for the principles of cooperation and transparency," he declared, his gaze locking onto Ethan. "There are rumors of advanced technology being developed in secret, technology that could disrupt the balance of power in this galaxy." A murmur rippled through the room as all eyes turned to Ethan. He clenched his fists under the table, resisting the urge to activate the Mark III right then and there. Beside him, Claire placed a reassuring hand on his arm, reminding him to stay calm. "Humans value peace and progress," Ethan said, his voice steady despite the tension coursing through him. "Any advancements we make are intended to ensure our survival, not to threaten others." Rhynoc's response was cold and dismissive. "Survival is not enough. Trust must be earned, not demanded." The words stung, But Ethan forced himself to nod politely. He knew arguing wouldn't help, at least not yet. For now, he needed to bide his time and wait for the right moment to act. As the meeting dragged on, Ethan realized this was far from over. The council wasn't just questioning humanity's motives, they were testing them. Whatever happened next would define not just his future, but the future of his entire species. Ethan Caldwell was a man who preferred solitude. He didn't like crowds, noise, or unnecessary attention. His world revolved around his work, and for good reason. Ethan was an engineer, a genius, some might say, and he had spent the better part of the last decade working on something that could change everything, hidden away in a small research facility orbiting just beyond Earth's atmosphere. He dedicated every waking moment to perfecting what he called the Mark III battle armor. It wasn't just any suit. It was humanity's answer to survival in a galaxy filled with threats far greater than anyone on Earth could imagine. The facility itself was unremarkable from the outside. A dull gray cylinder floating silently in space, it looked more like a forgotten relic than a hub of groundbreaking innovation. But inside, it buzzed with activity, though most of that activity came from machines rather than people. The only other person there was Claire Bennett, Ethan's assistant and occasional voice of reason. She was younger than him by about 10 years, sharp-minded and fiercely loyal. While Ethan focused on building the armor, Claire handled logistics, communications, and anything else that kept the operation running smoothly. Together, they made a good team, but lately, their partnership felt strained. "You're pushing yourself too hard," Claire said one evening as she walked into the lab. Her voice carried a mix of concern and frustration. "You haven't slept in 2 days and you've barely eaten." Ethan barely glanced up from his workstation. His hands moved deftly over tools and circuits, adjusting tiny components with precision. "I don't have time for sleep," he muttered. "This is important." "It's always important," Claire shot back. She crossed her arms and leaned against a nearby table, watching him intently. "But you can't keep going like this forever. Even you have limits." Ethan sighed but didn't stop working. He knew she was right, but stopping now felt impossible. Every second counted. The Galactic Council, the governing body overseeing relations between species across the stars, had been watching humanity closely ever since Earth joined the interstellar community. They saw humans as newcomers, inexperienced and weak compared to older civilizations. And while Ethan understood their skepticism, it frustrated him deeply. Humans weren't inferior. They simply hadn't been given a fair chance to prove themselves. That's where the Mark III came in. This wasn't just another piece of military hardware, it was a statement. The armor was sleek and futuristic, its design blending functionality with intimidation. Its surface shimmered faintly under the lab lights, almost alive with energy. Inside, layers of advanced technology worked seamlessly together. Plasma weapons capable of cutting through steel, an energy shield strong enough to withstand even the most devastating attacks, and an AI system so sophisticated it could anticipate threats before they happened. Most importantly, the Mark III gave its wearer unparalleled strength, speed, and agility. Wearing it would make someone more than human. They'd become a force to be reckoned with. But Ethan knew revealing the Mark III wouldn't be easy. In fact, it could be dangerous. The Galactic Council valued balance above all else, and introducing such powerful technology might upset that delicate equilibrium. Some species might see it as a threat, while others might try to take it for themselves. That's why secrecy had been crucial during development. Only a handful of people even knew the project existed, and those who did were sworn to silence. Still, keeping something this monumental hidden wasn't sustainable long-term. Eventually, the truth would come out. And when it did, Ethan wanted humanity to be ready. "Have you thought about what happens next?" Claire asked, breaking the silence. Her tone softened slightly, though her expression remained serious. "Once the council finds out about this, there's no turning back. They won't let us keep it quiet." "They'll have to," Ethan replied firmly. "We need leverage if we want them to take us seriously. Without it, we're just pawns in their game." Claire frowned. "And what if showing them the armor makes things worse?" What if they decide we're too dangerous to trust? Ethan paused, finally looking up at her. For a moment, doubt flickered in his eyes. But then it vanished, replaced by determination. Then we deal with that when it comes. Right now we focus on finishing this. Humanity deserves a fighting chance, Claire. If we don't give ourselves that, no one else will. She opened her mouth to argue further but closed it again. Arguing with Ethan was like trying to move a mountain. He was stubborn, single-minded, and utterly convinced he was right. Instead, she decided to change tactics. "Fine," she said, forcing a smile. "But promise me you'll at least take a break soon. You're no use to anyone if you collapse from exhaustion." He nodded absently, already turning his attention back to the armor. "Yeah, sure. I'll rest when this is done." As Claire left the lab, she couldn't shake the feeling that something big was coming. Whether it would be good or bad, she couldn't say. All she knew was that once the Mark III saw the light of day, nothing would ever be the same again. Meanwhile, Ethan continued his work, oblivious to the growing tension outside their little bubble. Deep down, he knew Claire had a point, revealing the armor would come with risks. But he also believed those risks were worth taking. Humanity had spent centuries gazing up at the stars, dreaming of a place among them. Now, thanks to the Mark III, that dream was within reach. All they had to do was seize it. Hours turned into days as Ethan put the final touches on the armor. Testing each component meticulously, he ensured everything worked perfectly. The plasma weapons fired with pinpoint accuracy, the energy shield held firm against simulated attacks, and the AI responded flawlessly to every command. By the time he finished, Ethan felt a surge of pride unlike anything he'd ever experienced. This wasn't just a machine, it was hope wrapped in metal and circuitry. Yet, as he stood there admiring his creation, a sudden realization hit him. No matter how powerful the Mark III was, it wouldn't mean much unless someone used it wisely. Strength alone wasn't enough. Wisdom mattered too. And as much as Ethan hated to admit it, he wasn't sure he possessed both qualities in equal measure. For the first time in years, Ethan allowed himself to feel uncertain. Was he doing the right thing? Would unveiling the armor bring humanity closer to greatness or push them toward destruction? These questions lingered in his mind as he powered down the lab and headed to his quarters. Tomorrow, he told himself, he'd figure it out. For now, all he wanted was a few hours of peace. Little did he know peace was the last thing waiting for him.